Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business here and let's wake up the football gods this morning. Let me say shout out to you know, I was getting up and I was brushing my teeth and everything else, and then I got a damn Gina update who let me know that Jason Peters will be coming to the Dallas Cowboys today for a visit. We got so much stuff that's going on. Oh my goodness, we got so much stuff that's going on. I appreciate, because you know we've been doing a lot of videos here. We have been putting in the work because there finally is action going on with the Dallas Cowboys. And today is going to be another one of those busy days. We've gotten the 17-man roster just about set. We have one spot open at this moment, only one. Because see, here's what happened. You know, because for a while there, people were worried about Jake McQuaid, as well as Godwin. Because when they started going through and naming all the players that were going to the practice squad, you didn't see those two guys. Well, it ended up being that when Tyron Smith as well as James Washington went on IR, those were the two roster spots that opened up for those guys. But there's still one spot left open. One of those was just taken up because the Cowboys have officially signed running back Quadre Olson to the practice squad. Quadre, who had 105 yards on 21 carries last year, basically is a short yardage guy. He is 6'1", 235 pounds. He's a big back and gives us some more depth on the offensive line. Possibly, I don't know, maybe they use him as a fullback. Maybe we start doing some two-back sets. You know, Jerry Jones has been talking about us running the damn ball more, and we'll see if that actually happens. So he's added to the fold, and currently we still have one spot left open on the practice squad. Now, here's what I'm going to do. Because, you know, we're getting clowned. We're getting clowned by Eagle fans because they've already figured we got the Lombardi sewed up. They literally feel that everything is golden, that Howie Roseman has the Midas touch right now, and that everything is perfect, that they're going to cruise through and be 17-0, that the Dallas Cowboys, we're just like a little flea to them, and that's about it. They're making fun of the Cowboys because, you know, like, hey, we have Andre Dillard. You could have traded for him and given us some more draft capital because Howie Roseman is a wheeler and dealer. Instead, you're going to go for a 40-year-old Jason Peters, which the last year he played in Philadelphia, he was injured. He only played in 8 games, and he was a shell of himself that year. I agree. But you have to understand that the Cowboys, they believe in what they do with draft picks. They believe in their first-round draft picks. And if I go through and I look, let me pull, I should have done this. The difference for the Cowboys is with our first-round picks. You know, people will talk about, you know, taco, you know, we got a soft taco. But just listen to this list here, okay? For the Eagles, they did great when they, you know, for 2010, they were great for a while there. They got Brandon Grimes. They got Fletcher Cox 2 years later. They got Lane Johnson. But since 2014, they've sucked ass. Marcus Smith, Nelson Aguilar, Carson Wentz, Derek Barnett, Andre Dillard, who they're trying to trade, Rhaegar, who they just traded, and then Devontae Smith, we'll see if he's as good as they think, and Jordan Davis, who's a role player. So when you start thinking about the Cowboys getting guys like, you know, Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, you know, Tyron Smiths and things, Cowboys have great players, and we've been able to get those guys in the draft. If the draft is as good as the Cowboys have done in the past, Tyler Smith will have some lumps, but he should be good to go. The problem for the Cowboys is depth. And that's where you bring in a guy like a Jason Peters, much like you have a Charles Haley. Oh, let's play the clips here, because after only playing in 8 games and injured last year for the Eagles, Jason Peters played 15 games last year for the Bears. I'm not going to say that he's the guy he was 10 years ago, but his body is big enough that just having people having to, did you see him just drop that guy? Having his body to have to go around, that alone will slow some people down. But to have him as a swing tackle, understand, we're not looking for him to be a 17-game guy starter. He's an insurance policy, and in case shit happens, and a mentor for the younger guys. Mentor for the younger guys. He says he's been working out. He was on Sirius Radio just a month ago saying, I understand I'm 40 years old, but I'm going to summarize. I understand I'm 40 years old. I'm old. I still have something left in the tank. I've been working out. I can, be a starter. I can be a mentor. I'd like to get with a good team that, has a chance to try and make one more run towards the Super Bowl. And you look at this from a guy who only got paid $1.75 million last year. This is one of those ones that this is a no-risk, high-reward type player. He's a guy that you can say, you know what? Even at his age, he's got experience and knows more than Josh Ball. At least his shoulder's not hurt like Matt Lewinsky. And this is a guy who can kind of take Tyler Smith and put him under his wings. So I'm not mad about this one at all. I'm okay with it. Eagle fans laugh. I have no problem with you laughing. You guys talk about Zeke Elliott is old, but one of the problems you guys are going to have is you don't have that guy that can get that 1 yard, that short yardage guy. You don't have that workhorse who can play through a whole season through some injuries. Is Miles Sanders back to practicing yet with that hamstring issue? Or is that going to be a nagging injury that's going to go through? And, I'm kind of tired of hearing everybody talk about how good the Eagles' running attack was, the number one running attack. Well, you know how you negate that? I'm going to say to you the conversation that I had with Roger Staubach. I have been blessed to have done some really cool things in my life. And in 2013, I believe it was, when Larry Allen was inducted into the Hall of Fame, I got to drive Roger Staubach back to his hotel. And during that time, we talked about the pistol offense, among other things, and how the pistol offense was going to revolutionize football. And I said, you know how you stop that? I said, when that quarterback comes around, you clock his ass one time real good. And I guarantee you they'll think twice before they run that again. And see, of that rushing attack, 742 yards of it was your quarterback. And your quarterback can't do that. You just can't do that for long. Lamar Jackson is great at that, but you're beginning to see hints of him having, a few injuries here and there. You clock him a couple of times, that's going to change. But what they don't remind you of is that the Eagles were in the bottom 5 in passing. So yes, they ran the ball. Congratulations, you ran the ball, but you certainly didn't do jack as far as passing. So it remains to be seen if they're going to be able to pass. But anyway, be that as it may, they don't have a short yardage guy like a Zeke Elliott who can be a workhorse that can pick up those things. And the Cowboys signing the running back from Atlanta is another guy that you can use for short yardage. So the Cowboys are fitting a narrative of what they're planning on doing. They're going to be a ground and pound offensive line that's going to run the football and play action you to death. That's my take on it. And having a Jason Peters, even as old as he is, that is definitely better than what we have currently. Other news in here, and I'll let you guys keep watching on here. Other news that's kind of interesting is with the Jets' Denzel Mims. It's kind of crazy that the Cowboys, maybe the Cowboys managed their cuts differently than the Jets did, but it's amazing how the Cowboys didn't get a single claim for a player. But the Jets ended up having 7 taken off of theirs. And the Jets seems like their roster stinks. How is it that they lost 7 players that were claimed? I'm still mystified on that one. But one guy who is still making some noise out there, Denzel Mims, who, wide receiver, drafted the same year CD was, doesn't have a whole lot of catches and yards. I think 35 catches, 300 some odd yards with them, with the Jets. Now, you have to look at it and say it's the Jets and they don't have a great quarterback or a great team, that they don't necessarily know great football in passing ability. He is a backup. He requested a trade from the Jets. He does not like being second string, and he's definitely played well. His last game, the last preseason game, had 6 catches for 91 yards and a 26-yard touchdown reception. Did not look bad. And so as we go through last night, this is what he said. Sitting in as a backup role, Mims eliminated on his chances of earning a starting gig after not playing a single snap with the first team in unit until preseason action. I feel like I'm pretty much prove it from OTAs until now, he said. I mean, they're pretty set on who they want. I feel like the coaches have made up their minds up, honestly, but I feel like that I can change their minds. I don't feel like I can change their minds on that. I feel like I've been doing that. Their minds are pretty much made up, though. He requested that trade, of course, after the 3rd preseason game, and so far, nothing has happened there. But it seems like with what's been going on, that he's not in their future plans. Another point that he had made was, of course, I'm going to be frustrated that I'm not playing with the starters, but I've got to continue to work, Mims says. I have no problem playing on special teams. I don't at all, but I feel like I'm a starting receiver, he said. So I wouldn't say he wants to be someplace else. He wants to play, Douglas said. He wants to start. Denzel is confident he has voiced that and that he wants to be a starter. Ultimately, you want a team full of guys that feel like that and should be the number 1 guys. So, in essence, you have to believe that Denzel Mims is on a short leash with the Jets, and if the Jets can get a decent offer, that they may go ahead and move on him. The question would be is how much compensation? Jalen Reagor was recently traded, of course, so you can look at that and say that was a 4th-round pick, a conditional 4th round, 5th or 4th, and a 7th. Denzel Mims, who was not a number 1 draft pick, maybe you get him for less than that. Maybe you get him for a 6th-round draft pick. But we'll see if the Cowboys do, in fact, try to make a move for him and see if they can change the narrative on where he is on his career right now. A change of scenery definitely sounds like something that would be good for him and maybe good for the Jets. I have no idea what the Jets are doing because the Jets seem like whenever they get decent players, they always want to get rid of them and try and get draft picks and then mess up the draft picks. So let's listen in this morning to Keyshawn and Jay Will and Max Kellerman and see what those guys have to say because, the Cowboys are always going to be a topic for discussion.
Anyway, we're talking about how, Jerry Buss, they went into how Jerry Buss was trying to buy the Cowboys. Man, how that Jerry would have changed the fortunes of the last 25 years for the Cowboys. But the owner you got, Cowboys fans, is Jerry Jones. And here he is on the Cowboys narrative on 105.3 The Fan.
I like that, continually reminding that we need to not only get in the playoffs, but we need to get way deep into the playoffs so we got a chance. I think this team is reflecting that. I think it is a narrative of the team. I think it reflected in our decision-making in the spring, who we kept, who we let go, and who we brought on. So that is the narrative. Get in a better spot to stay longer in the playoffs.
Longer in the playoffs. How about win a single game, Key? What's the main narrative for the Cowboys heading into this season? To me, you must win a playoff game or it's a disaster. If you win a playoff game, it's a push. And you win 2, you had a successful season. But I think you got to win at least a playoff game here. What's the narrative for you, Key?
It'd be really good for them to advance into a second, a second round or whatever the case is. If they get to the divisional round, that's a plus. I think that's where they need to be. Anything short of that, it's not a successful season, regardless of what you may have done in the offseason. Of course, players are going to come and go. Some guys are going to get injured, but they've got to. It's time to go. You can't just win the division and gone home. You gotta win the division and knock on the door of the NFC Championship appearance. You have to do that.
Yep.
I don't know, Keith. For me, it has to do a lot around this maybe being one of the worst off seasons for the Cowboys, leading into a season with a lot of hope with a head coach who you feel like is barely living with his lifeline. The loss of Tyrone Smith, I think, really hurts him, right? Like the QBR for Dak Prescott is like 108 when he's on the field. When he's not on the field over the last 2 years.
108?
It's like 107, 108 when he's on the field.
108? That's unheard. No.
Passer rating. Excuse me. Like 108 when he's on the field, and when he's off the field, he's like 95. Like it's like Jimmy G portion. So I don't know, losing Amari Cooper. I think there are a lot of questions around this team. Even Ezekiel Elliott, Key. Like I get that everything's going to run through Zeke, but time has just been proven that it feels like he's been injury prone more and more and more. Like what makes us think, seeing the history of the running backs over the last 5 years with Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry even last year, that a guy like him with that size and frame is actually going to be able to survive?
Well, I think I'm not worried about Zeke. I think Zeke will be healthy. They'll rotate Pollard in there, here and there, and mix things up.
That's different, though, Key.
And when Zeke is healthy, he's one of the better backs in the league, and he's been healthy for the most part. Missed a couple games here and there, but for the most part, he's been pretty healthy. I think when you talk about the offensive line and you look at the offensive line and having and Torrance Smith now being removed from the lineup, and they have to figure out what they're going to do at the left tackle spot, I'm sure Jerry Jones, Will Clay, Stephen Jones, and Jerry Jr. went into this season bringing back Smith, saying to themselves, he could get hurt again. Something could happen.
You should have
a contingency plan.
But you didn't.
What that contingency plan is, there's a big left tackle sitting out there named Andrew Whitworth who's available. So if they want to go and try to wrestle him out of retirement, that may be an option there. Who knows? But I think they're going to be competitive. I don't know what's going to happen because I like the Eagles as well. And if the Eagles come to the party with Jalen Hurts, they're going to get the Cowboys a run for their money. And if the Cowboys stub their toe, then Mike McCarthy will probably be looking for a new job. And that's what Jerry Jones is essentially saying.
But they kind of already did stub their toe with, I don't think you could count on Tyron Smith to play. Like, you can't, it's foolish to think, oh, yeah, he's going to play a full season because he never does, right? But he's really good when he's on the field. But that's one of the downsides. And the line has eroded. The offensive line has eroded over the last several years. They've just started to replenish it in a serious way. But the way they built it, 4 out of 5 years, their first round pick went to the O-line. Mm-hmm. So they built this real powerful O-line. That's eroded somewhat. And now you add to that, the receiving room won't quite be the same. Mike McCarthy has won a Super Bowl, and I wouldn't say he's an incompetent head coach, but I would not consider him an elite head coach either, which goes to the point where Jerry Jones will only hire people where they don't take away his shine, right? And then when I hear they want to run the offense through Zeke as a Giants fan, I'm like, great. You know, Zeke at this point in his career behind a decent offensive line versus Dak, great, run it through Zeke. He's the lesser player.
Key, do you see Dak getting back to where he was 2 years ago when he was on that MVP run before he got hurt? You think he'll reach that level again this year?
I thought he played pretty well last year. I think he'll probably play well again this year. The beginning of the season prior to getting hurt, it wasn't like the Cowboys were undefeated. I don't even remember exactly what their record was, but I feel like it was something like 2-3 or something like that. It wasn't like it was just lights out. He was putting up statistical numbers that certainly made people feel like he was having an MVP season based on statistics. I think he can still do those sort of things. What they got to worry about is getting the W's, not the statistics.
I'm looking now from 2021, 0-1, 0-2, 1-2, 2-2. They were 3-2, yeah, after 5
Yeah,
years.
so yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, they wasn't like lights out.
This,
and that's 20. You looked at 20 or 21, Max.
21.
21 last year.
Because he got hurt in 20.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about 2020.
We were 1-1.
2020 is when he got hurt.
Yeah.
By the way, in
1-1.
2019, he had a good year.
We
They were
beat Tampa
8-8.
Bay, and then we. I'm sorry, we lost to Tampa Bay, then we beat the Chargers. We were 1-1.
Those first, I don't know, was it 5 games?
I think it's like 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, but overall,
he was putting up a lot of
their record was not
numbers. They
great.
were playing from behind plenty, so they were airing it out. This is Keyshawn J. Willimax coming to you live from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17. So, is
all right,
Mike?
we're going to start us up there. But, deep run in the playoffs, it's funny. That 1 minute, that 1 minute they're telling us the Cowboys didn't do anything to help themselves and that they're a bad team. The next minute they say they're, that they got to make a deep run, that the season is you can't have both of them. If you say, they don't have the talent, like, say, the Jets, you don't expect the Jets to have a deep run in the playoffs if they don't have the talent. So they're literally talking out of both sides of their necks on these things. Here's the thing. I actually like this because it seems like when the Cowboys are expected to do things is when our team is the worst. When the Super Bowl was going to be in Dallas, I remember people saying that the Cowboys could be the first team to host a Super Bowl in their home stadium. And that year was so bad that Jason Garrett ended up taking over the middle of the season. After 2013, when the Cowboys were 8-8 and looking like ass, and it was 3 years of 8-8, nobody expected them to do anything, especially with Tony Romo having surgery. And then it turned out we go 12-4, and we're the catch no catch away from the NFC Championship game. So then the expectations were, this team is loaded. 2015, Romo gets hurt, season's a wash. 2016. We're not expected to do anything because Tony Romo gets hurt. We go 13-3 and in the playoffs, and are close to being Aaron Rodgers, the bad man in Green Bay. 2017, they took that team and said, this team's going to do great things. Great running back, nice young quarterback, great offensive line. Zeke had his issues, and so this year, now the Eagles are the hot team. They're the offseason paper champions. Cowboys, they didn't do anything to help themselves. And they're figuring they're going to be a failure. And that, my friends, is one of the reasons why I think the Cowboys actually do well. I like being the underdog. I don't like being the guy like the Eagles are where they've got the target on their backs. But we'll see how it all works out. And as always, I appreciate all of you great fans out there that are watching. Shout out to Russell Wilson, who got the $245 million contract extension. Wow, for 5 years, meaning $49 million a year. I'm Mark Holmes, and we'll have more on Jason Peters when that all comes through. Peace out.
And the only thing else I got to say is